Well, first of all, I simply want to say that it's been a pleasure to have been involved with the organization, and it's a great pleasure to be recognized in this way for the time I've spent with the CRKN and its board and various committees that it has spawned. I guess the two things that really prompted me to be interested in taking up an invitation to work with the board that I'll mention are first the fact that throughout my career for reasons that I think have begun to understand and at the time did not understand perfectly, felt a strong affinity for electronic communications and for the ways in which a virtual environment, a digital environment might improve scholarly communications. So very early on, I was part of a team that was given some money by SHIRK, and our job was to try to ascertain whether it was at all feasible, whether there was any merit whatsoever in conceiving of a journal that could be edited from beginning to end using email. This at the time was thought of as a revolutionary idea, and we worked through various editorial processes that are typical of editing of regular conventional journals, and tried to understand how we would modulate the traditional practices in light of the technologies that were available at the time. So that really got me started. That whetted my interest. And another person who was on our team was a librarian at the University of Calgary, and I started to form then some extremely positive impressions of how librarians lead the parade in a way and understand virtual environments perhaps better than people working in traditional academic fields. Second thing is that I got involved fairly early on when an electronic journal was being tested in my own field. So many years had elapsed, and it was now commonplace for there to be not only editorial procedures that relied on email, but whole electronic journals. So I was part of the editorial board of something called Early Modern Literary Studies, EMLS, which is still going today. And it was started in Canada by a man named Ray Siemens. And Ray Siemens is somebody who is soon, I believe, to join the board of CRKN. He's gone on to do all sorts of wonderful things since establishing EMLS, and I played a small part in that. And I guess the other thing that I would say is that in my own personal background, I pushed, while I was dean, libraries and humanities computing. I pushed both of those things a fair amount. And when I was provost and vice president academic at the University of Calgary, became a fairly vociferous champion for libraries and for the protection and enhancement of library resources. And by that time, many of those resources were in fact digital resources. So that was one set of considerations. I guess another set had to do with the fact that I knew a little bit about CRKN and its early manifestation as the Canadian Site Licensing Project, and I felt strongly that that project had more or less defied all odds by bringing together a host of institutions from across all regions of the country. And I, like most people, like to join ventures that are successful, and I knew that CRKN was and would be successful. So I was happy to join the team and to be part of a consortium that I think has done really great work. Well, there have been challenges, no doubt about it, and I think that on the whole CRKN has risen to those challenges. When I joined the organization, it was located in extremely cramped quarters, generously provided, mind you, by the University of Ottawa. And the move from those cramped quarters to new premises on Preston Street was challenging for a number of reasons. I always used to be amused at the fact that the travel policy for CRKN refers to a middle road, a sort of typically Canadian compromise, and accommodation for people traveling on CRKN business was to be neither substandard nor sumptuous. So I think what happened is that the move from the University of Ottawa to the Preston Street offices represented or reflected a move from the substandard, as some would see it, to the sumptuous, as some would see it. And I think we've now effected the perfect Canadian compromise with the new premises on Holland. I also think, and I think anybody who has been associated with the CRKN over the last few years would say the same thing, that the granting of the CFI grant for the DCI project, which was very carefully prepared for and very strategically positioned, was a clear highlight. There's no question that the granting of that money by the CFI to the CRKN and its member universities represented something of a coup. At the beginning, of course, the CFI really didn't want to support work in the humanities and social sciences, and so it had come a long way when it decided to invest, I think it was $20 million in the CRKN and its interest in democratizing access to materials in the social sciences and the humanities. At the time, and maybe still, that's the largest CFI grant awarded to anybody or any project working in that field, and I think that that was clearly a highlight. I do remember receiving or helping to receive the check from the Honorable Maxime Bernier, who was there in Ottawa to make the announcement, and I think it was a last-minute affair, if I can describe it that way. And at the time, I was pressed into service to be there to help with the celebration. Those are two of the highlights, but there are many others. I mean, I think the strategic planning efforts that CRKN has done. I think the recent governance review was also very much to the point, and I'm pleased personally with the outcomes of that review. So those be some of them, and I think, as I say, all of them have been challenging, but CRKN as an organization and the members of CRKN as individuals have really risen to the challenges. I was very pleased to be asked to chair the advisory board, though I also found the prospect somewhat daunting because I was following Jean-Claude Guédon, who I think was and is one of the gurus of the Canadian and international scene when it comes to thinking creatively about how digital resources might be employed. But the advisory board was a splendid idea because, as I always said when talking about it, we were unfettered, we were unencumbered by any formal governance responsibilities, and so we could do environmental scanning, and we could think widely and broadly about the implications of what CRCan was up to and the way in which it was carrying out its mandate. And the diversity that was found among the membership of the board really resulted in some very creative and useful thinking, as far as I'm concerned. The advisory board, I think, was a kind of bellwether for the CRCan, and in some ways, you know, it was a canary in the mine. I mean, it was able to alert the board, at least that's what it thought it was doing, to some developments that we felt ought to be recognized and dealt with. And what a great group we had to work with. I mean, we had people such as Marie Taubin, who had been with Industry Canada at the time when the innovation agenda was being created and implemented. We had James Franklin, who was the former chief geologist of Canada and who was an adjunct professor at 4 or 5 universities across the country. We had Leslie Chan from the University of Toronto, who is a very, very zealous proponent of open access and never let the advisory board, never let the board, if he had his way, forget it for a moment. And Leslie, was interested in not just rhetorical support for open access, but concrete action that would flow out of the the principles of open access. And these people and many others that I haven't mentioned are really typical of the kind of broad thinking and based on concrete, distinguished service in a particular profession or field. Very energetic group. I suppose the most energetic individual on the group in some ways was Yves Gingras. Any of you who know him, he's a very distinguished person in the realm of bibliometrics and performance measures, will know that he's an incredibly animated guy who commits himself fully to any task that he takes on. And he and the other people I've mentioned were absolutely typical of the people I haven't mentioned in bringing their time, talent, and energy to the advisory board. For my money, it's also important that the advisory board made room for representatives from other library systems in the world. So we had people like Shirley Baker and Ken Fraser and Jan Wilkinson and Rick Luce from the US or from the UK in Jan Wilkinson's case. And you know, their ability to see the CRCan through the lenses that they brought to bear was really important for the advisory board. And their ability to become advocates of the CRCan in their own spheres of influence was something that I think was immensely appreciated by the people who knew how they went to bat for us. Ken Fraser more than once spoke glowingly to his counterparts in the American scene about the ways in which he had learned much from the model that CRCan represents. So I guess the second part of my thinking about this is that the advisory board did consist of diverse people, many of them very strong-willed people who had held positions in senior leadership positions, but they were committed to a common cause, and they had a common vision, and in the face of that commonality, the diversity evaporated, and I think we all managed to put our shoulder to the wheel and move in the same direction. I think of my own scholarly work as somebody who did early modern studies, as I've said before, as being characterized by a fair amount of cross-border shopping. So I, was educated in English literature, but I strayed frequently into other domains. So I became quite interested in political science, political studies, interested in history, interested in art, interested in music, and brought the insights of other disciplines to bear on the kind of work that I did as a scholar and as a teacher, I guess. And my strong belief is that we all benefit when we learn from the experience of listening to what other disciplines have to say about our own. And I think it's also important that we listen to the voices in those disciplines that may speak a slightly different language than ours, but may have much to offer to our own. So certainly when I was a dean, I tried hard and I guess had some success in trying to get diverse departments to communicate with one another and above all to listen to one another. So I wanted the people from the philosophy department to listen to the people from the language departments and vice versa. And I tried to do the same thing when I was provost, when I was responsible for 16 faculties and their deans, and strongly encouraged a fair amount of chatter and chat and communication across the disciplinary borders. And I'm not saying that I was uniformly successful in encouraging what I'll think of as translational activities and bridging between and among faculties, but I think that in some cases I had some modest successes there. I remember being interviewed for the job of provost at the University of Calgary and saying to people at the time that my experience working in choirs made me a proponent of the idea that it's a good idea to mix and mingle the singers so that instead of having the basses and the sopranos and the altos and the tenors singing in distinct sections, they would be all mixed up. Why? Because you were then forced to listen much more closely, I think, to what your partners were up to. And because you were listening to what they were doing, you actually developed more confidence in what you were doing. And so I've espoused that philosophy for quite a long time, and I found it very helpful as an administrator and as somebody who has chaired meetings when diversity has been the hallmark of people sitting around the table. The culture of organizations is a fascinating thing to behold and a fascinating aspect of belonging to an organization. I guess everybody's experience might differ, but for me, the culture of the CRCN has been marked by an interest in progressive change. The organization has had to evolve over time, and I think that that's been one of the most distinctive pluses for the CRKN. And I think that it has had to make those changes because the pace of technological change and the pace of our understanding of how to harness digital resources for research purposes and in the classroom have been moving ahead at a remarkable rate. So you put that together with economic uncertainty and the fact that this is a venture that spans the whole of Canada with 75 different institutions, large and small, coming from different time zones, etc. And the challenge for the CRCan, I think, is to continue to embrace progressive change. So to me, as we think about what CRCan will be in the future, and there's a certain degree of speculation about this, but for me, the fact that CRCan has been capable of making change, foreseeing the need for change, and then implementing the change when it's being deemed necessary, is really important. I think that without it, the organization is going to flounder, and I think that it has no reason to flounder because I think its history, its record, speaks volumes about its ability to move forward. And I guess I would say, since I've been taking in some of the sessions of delegates at the current AGM in 2012, that I was very excited today to hear a number of great ideas about the things that members think we should do and could do in order to renew our original vision, not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but to do some new and progressive and exciting things. So to me, that's a cultural fact, and I hope that we can use that fact as we move forward. My advice, it's not just one word, but it's short, would be to build on past successes, but don't be complacent about them. The tried and true ways in any organization aren't necessarily the best ways for all circumstances and for all time. So I would say pull together by listening to one another and harnessing each other's energies and strengths. And if I were to boil it down to a single word, I would say espérance.